When I was younger, I used to get called tender-headed all the time. Then it was followed by, child, your hair so nappy. But I will only hear, your hair is so ugly.
What's up, people? Jheri J here. Hey, and if you want to take control of your 4C hair life, start today. Hit that subscribe button and that notification bell. Let's jump in.
So we are here to talk about what does it really mean to be tender-headed. This is number 8 to the 10 things that broke off my natural hair. And number 8 is believing stories that are not true. For example, are you really tender-headed? Now, most would say absolutely, because I have some type of pain when a comb or a brush or any type of tool is used on my head. My kids are tender-headed also. I'm not trying to deal with crying babies all the time. Now, before we address this issue, let me just say tender-headedness, or the term tender-headed, is a really old school term. And old school terms come with old ways of thinking. We are going to get into helpful tips to help you ease some of that pain that you might be feeling on your tender head. But let's first address an issue that I think is even more important than these helpful tips. Let me ask you a question. Why do you think it was so hard for you in the beginning to accept your natural hair? Was it because you was told it was ugly, it was nappy, your hair was the bad hair? Now, people, I want you to watch this video with an open mindset, because this is a sensitive topic that most cannot comprehend fully. And I'm not saying you're wrong for thinking the way that you think. All I'm saying is consider this approach. When we call a child, or when we as a child was called tender-headed, that meant we had nappy hair, we had some type of bad grain of hair, or we had to change the way our natural hair actually was. For example, perms, weaves, anything to cover up this texture that was not easy to comb. The bottom line is we have been trained for so long to hide our natural hair and was told stories like you're tender-headed, which resulted in us not accepting our own hair. Honestly, it's not our elders' fault. They only can teach us what they know. Now, I'm talking about myself too, because I most definitely had this experience growing up. And when I first became natural, I did not like my natural hair. It was too hard to comb. It was ugly. And I often wonder why my hair grew like this. But consider this, just like when you was told you were tender-headed, how did that make you feel? Better yet, when you call your child or another young person tender-headed, what do you think they're hearing? As a parent, as a guardian, we are our own kids' self-talk until they're mature enough to develop that skill themselves. And if we're pouring in bad information or bad self-talk into that child, come on, I mean, what can we expect? Low self-esteem, feelings of unworthiness, or even having that child believe that pain is beauty, and it's not. The truth is, the tools that you see over here were not meant for our hair, and that child is not tender-headed. It really does hurt. I mean, let's take a look at some of these tools. The popular one is the rocktail comb. This will not and cannot go through the actual texture of my hair. It wasn't meant that way. Now, I can understand if you use the tail. I mean, Who doesn't, right? The brush. These bristles are so hard. I mean, if you rub sandpaper up against your hair, what do you expect to happen? Even the teeth on this comb here is just too small for the texture of our hair. And last but not least, the denim brush. I mean, it's not a real denim brush because I can't afford one, but this is not the point of that video. But it just has too many bristles. And yes, you may modify it as much as you please, but how close the bristles are on this row here is just not meant to go through our hair. And here's the thing, when we're forcing these tools to comb and detangle our hair, we're snatching our own hair out. Now, if you were in a fight and someone pulls your hair intentionally, they're doing it intentionally to rip or hurt you. And although you may not be intentionally trying to hurt yourself or your child, that's exactly what you're doing when you're using these little teeth through that child's hair. Now, I'm not here to tell you to stop using your natural hair tools, your denim and brush, your rat tail comb. Like, that's not my position. I'm mainly here to tell you, if you have a child that you have labeled as tender-headed, you're doing more harm than you may intend to do. And we're not talking harm as far as physical harm. That's one side of it. But the 80% of the harm and damage that you're doing is that child's mental state. Believe me, they don't hear, I'm tender-headed. They fear these tools, but they hear, something's wrong with the way my hair is, because if it wasn't, it wouldn't be so hard to comb. Now, that's my 2 cents on labeling a child or a person, period, as being tender-headed and the mindset that comes with that. Let's get into some of these tips. Pick a styling tool that is easy and meant for you. For example, a wide tooth comb. I mean, pretty simple, right? If you're lucky enough, get a silicone wide tooth comb, and that will most definitely help you detangle your hair. Now, before you go into your hair with that wide tooth comb, use the best tool you already have. Your fingers. Use your fingers. Is no better tool on this planet for natural, curly, kinky, coily hair than your fingers. Inflammation is real. Now, if you have a sore scab, right? I used to get this all the time when I was a child. We used to call them scab burns, right? That is the first sign that your hair is dirty and it needs to be washed. And if you don't wash your hair in a certain amount of time, of course, that area or certain areas will get tender. I used to get scab burns, and I truly still have like one spot back here when I know if it flares up and I'm pushing my wash day, I done pushed my wash day way too long. It's time. But as a child, because I didn't have a regular routine of washing my hair, my scalp would be on fire and I had no clue why. Now, if you continue to allow those flare-ups, you can stunt your hair growth, which is not our goal at all. Or even worse, catch an infection. You do not want to do that. The first sign of any inflammation on your scalp, go wash your hair. Very last tip of changing the tenderness is changing your mindset of what it really means to be tender-headed or labeling someone else tender-headed. When something is hurting, when combing or styling or doing your hair, period, that's the first sign that you're doing something wrong. You need to stop and you need to adjust your technique. Let's stop teaching our kids that pain is beauty, beauty is pain, because that's absolutely not true. If your child or another person, your client, is crying or complaining that it hurts, it hurts. I encourage you to adjust your technique and use the proper tools in order to ease that suffering. And not only ease the suffering, stop ripping out your hair, which is next week's topic: how to retain length like a pro. Reason why we don't see a lot of our growth is because we're ripping off the ends of our hair. I mean, you let me know, what are your thoughts about length retention, hair growth, in the comments below. If you haven't seen last week's topic, which was, are silicones really that bad for your hair? We just talked about product buildup and how it can cause inflammation, how, it can stunt your hair growth. I mean, you tell me, what are your thoughts about silicones? Let me know right over here. And if you want more details before next week's video come out about length retention, don't worry about it. I got you covered. We talked about that in our goals for 2020 right here.